Oh boy, do we have a good one for you today. DJ Moore, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears, is coming off the best real life and fantasy season of his career. Finally, after years of suffering horrific quarterback play in Carolina, he's in a situation where he can truly showcase his skills. He was finally able to do just that this past year, but with a new quarterback in town, along with a few more targets in the passing game, there's a lot to talk about here. He's a monster after the catch, and he played like a bona fide wide receiver one, establishing himself as one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL this past year. Today, we're going to look at his situation, current contract, career production, athleticism, and advanced metrics in order to see just how much he deserves to be paid annually. By the end of this video, you will understand just how good he is and where he should rank annually in terms of salary. Please remember to like and subscribe if you want more content like this in the future. When we think of the 2024 Chicago Bears, we're thinking potential. So DJ Moore is their wide receiver one, but let's get into the rest of the depth chart to help explain away his situation. First overall, they drafted Caleb Williams, regarded by many as an elite prospect and by some as a generational prospect. He has shades of Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes in his pocket awareness and improvisational ability, and he is going to help DJ Moore so much. Now, when we think about what they've done in the free agency period as well as the draft, they did add two massive weapons to this offense. First of all, they traded for Keenan Allen. So they traded a fourth-round pick for him, and he is on a one-year deal, so long-term, especially since he's 32 years old, he's not going to be an impediment for DJ Moore in the future, but for this year, he's going to soak up a good amount of targets. Keenan Allen's most likely to play from the slot. He doesn't really have the speed to beat press right now. He needs free releases, but he's still an elite route runner. They did, however, draft Rome Odunze at pick 9. He profiles to be their ex-wide receiver, alone on one side of the field on the line of scrimmage, because he's going to easily beat press coverage and is going to be a vertical threat downfield. This leaves the Z position, which is most likely where DJ Moore is going to play. He's going to be able to get free releases off the line of scrimmage, go in motion, and don't get me wrong, all three of them will probably split time in different positions. Keenan Allen's most likely to be in the slot and in the Z position. Rome Odunze is most likely to play at X for the most part, but he can definitely play at any of these positions. DJ Moore is most likely to stay at Z receiver for the most part, but he can win at any wide receiver position. They also signed DeAndre Swift to help aid the running game. That wasn't that great this past year. And they also signed Gerald Everett to be a backup tight end to Cole Kmet. There's a plethora of weapons in this offense, so maybe the consistency and total volume of targets and targets per game might go down a little bit, but DJ Moore still, at least for this year, profiles to be their number one target. And in a Caleb Williams-led offense with all these weapons that are going to make it hard to guard him and specifically target him in coverage, he's going to be open a lot. In terms of Moore's contract, he currently ranks 17th in the NFL in annual salary. He's right around the likes of Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, and Keenan Allen. I think he should be paid a little bit more than that because he's younger than most of those players, and his prospects for the future are much higher than really all of those players. We see that recently the wide receiver contract market has exponentially increased, to where the top-end wide receivers are all getting $30+ million a year. We see Justin Jefferson just settled for $35 million a year. A.J. Brown just got $32. Amon-Ra got $30. Jalen Waddle almost got $29 million a year. New contracts are bloating. We also see that DJ Moore has 2 years left on his deal. So they're definitely not going to cut him this year, and I doubt that they end up cutting him altogether, but next year, they would have no dead cap against them, so they could theoretically move on if they really want to. Thinking about the situation, though, yes, they're paying Keenan Allen this year, but with him being 32 years old, he's kind of on the last leg of his NFL career. And they're not going to want to make it so that Rome Odunze, who is going to be fantastic, is their only credible threat at receiver. They're not going to want to do that. I think they're going to want to sign him as soon as possible because the wide receiver market is just increasing, and the sooner that they get this done, the less money that they have to spend. As far as he's concerned, obviously he's going to want financial security too. He's gotten a lot of money in his NFL career, but you always want to get more money. Everybody does. But we also want to make sure that it's justified. We also want to make sure, though, that he's deserving of a contract that's higher in annual salary. Let's look into some of his stats here. As a rookie, he finished as the wide receiver 39. Nowadays, ever since Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Puka came into the league, everyone expects an elite wide receiver to immediately be an elite wide receiver 1 in fantasy. That's just not how it was back in the day, and those totals were amazing for a rookie wide receiver. In his second year, he stepped up in a big way, finishing as the wide receiver 16. He had 87 receptions for 1,175 yards and 4 touchdowns, so he increased every single statistic going into his second year. In his third year, he had 66 receptions for 1,193 yards and another 4 touchdown season, so his touchdown totals remain the same, but he did increase his receiving yards. Then going into year 4, he stepped up once again. He had 93 receptions for 1,157 yards and 4 touchdowns once again. Going into his fifth year, he did take a little bit of a tumble. He finished as the wide receiver 24, which is still respectable, but he only had 66 receptions for 888 yards, yet he did have a career-high 7 touchdowns, so that is a good thing. He suffered terrible quarterback play, and fortunately for him, he was traded to the Chicago Bears, and it resurrected his career. This past year, he stepped it up in a big way. He finished as the wide receiver 6 overall. He had 96 receptions for 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns. His catches, yards, and touchdowns were all career highs, as well as his fantasy finish as wide receiver 6. Looking at his athleticism, not only is he an elite athlete, he's an elite of the elite. He finished with a 4.42 40-yard dash, which is in the 89th percentile among wide receivers. He also had a speed score of 108.5, which is in the 89th percentile of athletes. This is because he's not 5'6" doing this. He's 5'11", 210 pounds. So he's a big, muscly wide receiver, and he's not short either. His burst score is off the charts. He finished with a 133.2 score, which is in the 93rd percentile among wide receivers. He's also an agile athlete, finishing with an 11.02 score here, which is in the 76th percentile among athletes. That's his lowest metric here, and it's still incredibly high. As far as his catch radius, he finished with a 10.26 score, which is in the 89th percentile. He's an incredible athlete, and this really helps him as a Z receiver to be able to get open in the open field, shake off defenders when running routes, and boy, does it help him because he is a monster after the catch. So now that we've looked at where he is on the depth chart in his situation, his production profile, and his athleticism, let's look at advanced metrics. This year, he finished 12th in the NFL with 96 receptions. He also finished 6th in the NFL with 1,364 yards, and he finished 8th with 539 yards after the catch. This goes back to what I was saying about he is a menace after the catch. He also finished 4th in fantasy points per target with 2.11. He finished 16th in fantasy points per route run with 0.49, which, if he didn't have Justin Fields as his quarterback this past year, would have been so much higher. And it's going to be higher, I think, this year with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams can put the ball anywhere he wants on the field at any point in time. And he's going to have options. And DJ Moore is going to be so open because they're not going to be able to scheme against him so much this year. He finished 5th in the NFL in yards per team pass attempt with 2.66. And finally, he finished 7th in the league with a 13.0% juke rate. This goes back to what I was saying about his ability after the catch to create yards. He is as elusive as it gets as a wide receiver, and now that he's not going to be the only credible receiving threat on the team, it's going to be absolutely impossible for teams to scheme against him. I don't know what they're going to do. I would not be shocked if there's games this year where all 3 of their receivers have over 100 yards. This is going to be a crazy offense. So now that we've gone over his situation, his production profile, his athleticism, his advanced metrics, where do we think he should fit annually in terms of his salary? I think he should fit right in between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, wide receivers of the Miami Dolphins. So his production profile, at least this past year, is that of an elite athlete. He is an elite athlete, and his advanced metrics really show just how darn good he is. Really, as the wide receiver one, at least for the foreseeable future this year and maybe next year for his own team, he's deserved of a contract that reflects this and reflects his fantasy finish as the wide receiver 6. His highs are incredible. I'd probably guess that he does end up getting about $28-29 million a year annually, which is going to fall just below Tyreek Hill, but is deserved of a wide receiver with as much talent as DJ Moore possesses. But what do you think? Do you think that he deserves a contract as such? Do you think he deserves more than that, less than that? Let me know in the comments section. Hey guys, the Fantasy Football Strategist here. Please like and subscribe for more elite content. Do you want to win your fantasy leagues? Well, subscribe to be informed of the most breaking news and the redraft and dynasty implications of said news. Y'all have a fantastic day.